My child, stop everything for a moment, because something in you already knows why you are here tonight. You did not stumble onto this by accident. I brought you here myself. Something tried to keep this from reaching you. A distraction, a heaviness, a reason to keep scrolling and never stop. But you stopped, you stayed, and most people would have already moved on. You did not, my beloved, and that was not chance. You are tired, but you are still standing. You have been carrying something heavy for a very long time, and before you do anything else tonight, I want you to simply breathe. Take one real breath, my child, the kind you have not let yourself take in a long time, and as you do, notice a few things. Notice how your chest has felt tight for longer than you can remember. Notice how your shoulders have been braced, as if you have been carrying an invisible weight that never quite lets you stand up straight. Notice the quiet tiredness that lives underneath everything, the kind that sleep never seems to reach. My child, that was not weakness, and it was not you failing at life, no matter how many times it felt that way. That was the weight of a burden that was never only yours, a weight that was placed on your shoulders before you were old enough to understand it. My beloved, and tonight, I am going to begin lifting it, because you were never meant to carry your family's pain alone, and you were never meant to carry it forever. Because what I am about to say to you is not for everyone. It is for the one who almost gave up more than once and did not. It is for you. I know about those moments, my child, the ones no one else ever saw. The nights when everything felt too heavy to carry one more hour, when the only goal you could manage was simply getting to morning. The stretches of weeks when you smiled at people during the day and came apart in the dark where no one could witness it. Nobody applauded you for surviving those nights, because nobody knew how close to the edge you actually stood. But I knew, my beloved. I was there in every one of them. I was the reason the edge never became the end. You thought you were holding yourself together alone, and in truth I was holding you the whole time, even in the moments you were certain you had been abandoned. So before I tell you what your survival has set in motion, I want you to hear this plainly. My child, the fact that you are still here, still breathing, still able to feel these words landing in your spirit right now, is not small, and it is not luck. It is the evidence of a hand stronger than everything that tried to take you out. There is a version of your story that was supposed to end differently. Somewhere back in your bloodline, a script was written for you before you were even born. Beloved, it said you would struggle the way your parents struggled. It said you would carry the same fear your grandparents carried. It said the pain would simply pass from one generation to the next, quietly, the way it always had. But you dared to read that script, my child, and you dared to put it down. You looked at everything that was handed to you, the fear, the lack, the heartbreak, the silence, and instead of carrying it forward, you stopped. You said, "It ends with me." And that single decision, quiet as it was, changed the entire direction of your family line. For it is written, "In those days they shall no longer say, 'The fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge,' but everyone shall die for his own sin." Jeremiah 31:29-30. I have been ending the old sentence over your family, my beloved, and I chose you to be the place where it stops. Let me name what was handed to you, so you know I see the exact shape of it. Perhaps you inherited a fear that lived in the walls of your childhood home, a tension you could feel in the air before you had words for it, a sense that safety was always one bad day away. Perhaps you inherited a silence, a family where the deepest wounds were never spoken about, only buried and passed along unhealed. Perhaps you inherited a lack, a scarcity that taught everyone to grip what little they had with white knuckles, afraid it would vanish. Perhaps you inherited a way of loving that looked like control, or coldness, or walking on eggshells, because no one before you had ever been shown what steady, gentle love was supposed to feel like. You did not choose any of it, my child. It was placed in your hands before you were old enough to refuse it, the same way it had been placed in the hands of the ones before you. But I did not bring you this far to hand you the same verdict. I brought you here to break it. What was an inheritance of pain is about to become, through you, an inheritance of freedom. If something just shifted in your chest as I said that, my child, if a weight you have carried since before you understood it stirred even slightly, Do not brush it away as nothing. That is your own spirit, recognizing a truth it has always felt but never had words for. So agree with me. Type "the pain ends with me." When you type it, you are not leaving a comment. You are making a declaration into the unseen that the inheritance of pain stops in your hands, and heaven is recording your words. Stay close to me, my beloved. Follow this voice and subscribe, not to a channel alone, but to a steady flow of words I am using to keep your spirit steady while you do something no one in your family has ever done before. There are words coming that are meant for exactly where you are standing, and I do not want you to miss a single one of them. Now, let me tell you why you have felt so tired. It is not because you are weak, my child. It is because you are doing something that has never been done in your family before. You are the first. You are the first to heal instead of to hide. You are the first to choose peace instead of numbing the pain away. You are the first to look at heartbreak and grow from it instead of letting it harden you into someone cold. And nobody prepared you for this. Your father could not teach you how to carry this level of emotion because he never learned how himself. Your mother could not show you how to protect your peace because no one ever protected hers. You had to learn all of it alone, in the dark, one broken night at a time. That is why it has felt so lonely, my beloved. Loneliness is very often the price of being the one who goes first. Understand the strange grief that comes with being the first, my child, because you have felt it and never had permission to name it. There is a quiet pride in it, real and earned, but there is also a real grief, because being the first usually means there was no one who could fully understand what you were walking through while you were walking through it. Your parents could not always relate to your healing, because healing was never modeled for them. The people around you could not always relate to your boundaries, because boundaries were never modeled for them either. So you often felt like a stranger even among the people who loved you, speaking a language of growth that no one in your family had ever learned. That gap has ached, my beloved, and I am not going to pretend it did not. But hear how I reframe it. You are not only healing for yourself, you are becoming the reference point that did not exist before. You are the first person in your entire line to show what it looks like to stop, to feel, to heal, and to refuse to pass the wound forward, my beloved. And a reference point, once it exists, changes everything for everyone who comes after it. Type, "I am the first in my bloodline." Think about everything you have already survived. The betrayal that should have made you bitter but somehow did not. The financial struggle that should have made you desperate but instead made you resourceful. The isolation that should have made you give up on people entirely but instead taught you who was actually worth keeping close. Most people who walk through what you walk through do not come back from it whole, my child. But you did. You looked at the easy way out, the shortcuts, the numbing, the settling, and something inside you refused. You decided your peace was worth more than a quick escape, and your healing was worth more than a fast relief. There were so many easier exits available to you, my beloved, so many ways to numb what you were feeling, so many people who would have understood if you had simply chosen to stop feeling altogether. The whole world offers 1,000 ways to make the pain quieter without ever making it heal. And you were tired enough and hurt enough that any of them would have been understandable. But something in you refused to trade your wholeness for a moment of relief. Something in you insisted that there had to be a way through the pain that did not require becoming numb or hard or bitter. That refusal was not stubbornness, my child. That was your spirit, protecting the very thing I placed in you, the capacity to heal and to feel and to love, which the enemy most wanted you to surrender. Every time you chose the harder, slower path of actually healing instead of the faster path of merely escaping, you were protecting a treasure most people give away without even realizing they had it. That decision alone puts you in rare company. Most people take the deal. You did not. And I saw every private moment it cost you to refuse. There is an old saying that pressure reveals character, my child. And it is easy to say when life is calm. It is much harder to prove when everything around you is falling apart. But you were tested in exactly that kind of season, and instead of crumbling, you did something rare. You slowed down, you got quiet, you began asking harder questions about your own life, and you were brave enough to sit with the uncomfortable answers instead of running from them. That was the moment everything shifted, my beloved. Not when your circumstances finally got easier, but when you got stronger on the inside while they were still hard. You stopped waiting for someone to come and rescue you, and you started letting me rescue you from the inside out, piece by piece, one honest day at a time, my child. And here is what I want you to see about that. If anyone had looked at the full weight of what you inherited, the pain passed down, the lack of guidance, the odds stacked against you from the very beginning, they might have reasonably assumed you would not make it this far. At least not whole, not still able to love, not still able to hope. And yet here you are, still standing, still tender, still willing to try again after every reason not to. That is not ordinary, my child. That is the mark of a life I have been holding all along. Type I survived. What should have hardened me? My child, before I show you what your courage is doing beneath the surface, I want you to reach beyond yourself for a moment. Somewhere near you there is a soul still trapped in the very cycle you are breaking, still carrying the inherited pain, still convinced it is simply their fate. Sow a seed in their name today, not because you are required to, but because your spirit already knows the freedom I am describing is real, and you want it released over their bloodline too. Visit the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on screen. Let your giving be an intercession for someone who has not yet dared to put the old script down. I see the name that just rose in your heart, and I see the seed you sow for them. If your life has felt shaky lately, my beloved, if things have felt unsteady and uncertain, I do not want you to read that as a sign that you are falling apart. Something old is being left behind in you, and something new is beginning. And that kind of transition always shakes before it settles. The chains that held your whole family down for generations do not fall off quietly. They rattle as they break. My child, what you are feeling is not your life collapsing. It is a gravity that used to hold your entire bloodline finally losing its grip on you. For it is written, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. 2 Corinthians 5:17. You are not the old thing falling apart. You are the new thing being born. Do not despise the shaking, my beloved, and do not run back to the old ground just because it felt more stable. What felt stable was only familiar, and familiar is not the same as good. For your whole family, the chains were familiar. The fear was familiar. The scarcity was familiar. And familiar things, even painful ones, have a gravity that pulls a soul back toward them, especially in the moments the new road feels uncertain. My beloved, the enemy is counting on that pull. He is whispering that the discomfort of your growth means you made a wrong turn, that you should go back to who you used to be, back to what everyone expected of you, back into the pattern that felt like home even while it was slowly killing you. Do not listen to him. The discomfort you feel is not the discomfort of being lost. It is the discomfort of a soul leaving an orbit it was never meant to stay in. Stay in the shaking a little longer, my child. On the other side of it is a stability your family has never known. One that is not built on fear, but on me. Type the old chains are snapping. Stay close to me through this shaking, my beloved. Follow this voice and subscribe, because I am going to keep speaking steadiness over you in a season when the old familiar voices will try to pull you back. You were not made to walk this out without a word from me reaching you at the right moment. And this is how I will keep sending it. Let me tell you the truth about the patterns you inherited, because I do not want you to carry shame for them. My child, every family passes something down. Some inherit patterns of anxiety. Some inherit patterns of silence, where painful things were simply never spoken about. Some inherit patterns of scarcity, where there was never quite enough, and everyone learned to hold on too tightly out of fear. These patterns were rarely anyone's fault. My child, they usually came from real pain. Pain that was never given the space to heal, so it was passed down instead. The father who could not show affection was often a boy who was never shown any. The mother who could not stay calm was often a girl who never once felt safe. The anger, the silence, the fear, the grip on money, all of it was usually someone's unhealed wound wearing the face of a personality. I am not telling you this so you will excuse what hurt you. I am telling you so you can finally lay down the belief that you were cursed by your own blood, or that something was simply wrong with your family, and therefore wrong with you. Nothing was wrong with you, my beloved. You were born into a river of pain that had been flowing long before you arrived. And instead of drowning in it like the others, you learned to swim, and then you turned around and began pulling the whole family toward the shore. That is not the work of a cursed soul. That is the work of the one heaven appointed to break the river's course. And if you have ever wondered why you feel things so deeply, my beloved, why a single act of kindness can move you to tears, why injustice bothers you more than it seems to bother the people around you, why you carry the weight of others so easily, let me tell you what that sensitivity really is. It is not a flaw, and it was never something to be ashamed of. You feel deeply because you know, in your very bones, what it is to go without, to be unseen, to hurt in silence. Beloved, the pain you walked through did not make you fragile. It made you tender in a way that most people never become. And that tenderness is exactly what qualifies you to break the cycle. A hard heart cannot heal a family. Only a soft one can. My beloved, the very sensitivity your family may have told you to toughen up and hide is the instrument I am using to end generations of pain, because you are the first one in your line who could feel the wound clearly enough to refuse to pass it on. What they called too much, I call the anointing to break what no one else could break. But a pattern can end, and it almost always takes one person. Just one, willing to slow down long enough to actually feel what everyone before them was too overwhelmed to feel. My child, that person absorbs the weight, sits with it, lets me heal it, and refuses to pass it forward. If that person is you, my beloved, then understand what a holy thing you are doing. For it is written, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us. Galatians 3:13, and here another word the enemy hoped you would never find, one that overturns the whole idea that you must pay for what your fathers did. For it is written, the soul who sins shall die. The son shall not suffer for the iniquity of the father, nor the father suffer for the iniquity of the son. Ezekiel 18:20. Do you understand what that means for you, my child? The debt of the generations before you was never yours to pay. You were never sentenced to repeat their pain simply because you carried their blood. The enemy built his whole strategy on making you believe that their story had to be your story, that their limitations had to be your limitations, that their ending was written into your beginning. My child, but my word says otherwise. You are judged by your own heart, not by their failures, and your heart chose me. So the chain that everyone assumed was unbreakable was never as strong as it looked. It only survived because no one had ever tested it against a soul who refused to accept it. You are that soul. My beloved, the curse does not have to keep traveling down your line because it was already broken at the cross. And you are the one who finally stepped into that freedom on behalf of everyone who came before you. Type the curse stops in my hands. Now I must expose the true source of what came against your family, because you have blamed yourself and blamed your parents long enough. And neither of you was the real enemy. There was a spirit that worked through your bloodline long before you were born, an enemy who is patient across generations. He does not need to attack every soul directly if he can simply hand the same weapon down a family line. The same fear, the same lack, the same silence, the same broken way of loving, passing it from parent to child to grandchild, so that each generation wounds the next without ever meaning to. He counted on you being like all the others. He counted on you being too overwhelmed to feel it, too tired to question it, too conditioned to break it. He expected you to hand the pain to the next generation the way it was handed to you, and to call it normal. Understand his strategy, so it never works on you again. And so you never mistake it for simply the way your family is. He rarely attacks a bloodline with something obvious, because an obvious attack would be recognized and resisted. Instead, he hides the same wound in ordinary things, in a temper that gets excused, in a fear that gets called realism, in a silence that gets called privacy, in a scarcity that gets called being careful. And because it wears the face of normal life, no one thinks to fight it. It just gets passed down, hand to hand, generation to generation, doing his work for him without him ever having to lift a finger again. That is why breaking it required someone willing to look at what everyone else called normal and say, this is not normal. and it is not mine to keep. That someone was you. You did not just survive the pattern, you saw it for what it was, and by seeing it, you stripped it of the disguise that had protected it for generations. But you did what he never planned for. You stopped the transmission, and I am exposing his scheme now before the courts of heaven, so it loses its grip on your descendants forever. The generational curse he planted is uprooted, for it is written, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn." Isaiah 54:17. He meant to write the same ending onto 100 more people through you, and instead you became the wall he could not get past. Think of how much he lost the day you decided it would end with you. He did not just lose you, he lost your children, and their children, and everyone who will ever descend from you, because the weapon he intended to hand down for another century died in your hands. That is why the warfare against your life has felt so disproportionate, so relentless, so aimed at your peace and your mind and your hope. You were never fighting for one soul. You were fighting for a whole line of people who do not exist yet, and the enemy knew it even when you did not. The exhaustion you have felt was the exhaustion of a war fought on behalf of the unborn, and you won. Not because you were the strongest, but because you refused to quit, and because a power greater than the one coming against you was holding you the entire time. For it is written, "Whoever digs a pit will fall into it." Proverbs 26:27. And though the old warning said the iniquity of the fathers would visit the third and fourth generation, hear the rest of my word that the enemy never wanted you to read. For it is written, "But I show steadfast love to 1,000 generations of those who love me." Exodus 20:6. The line of the curse stopped in your hands, but the line of the blessing you are beginning will run 1,000 generations deep. Type the enemy's script dies with me. Let me speak gently now to the wound of the people who left. Someone walked away from you during a season when you had very little to give, when you were healing, rebuilding, not yet impressive, not yet shining, and that hurt more than almost anything because it felt like a verdict on your entire worth. But here is a gentler truth, my child. Sometimes people leave, not because you were not enough, but because they could not see what you were becoming. They saw the process, and they did not have the patience for it. That says something about their season, not about your value. Some people were only ever meant to walk a short stretch of the road with you, my child, not the whole journey. They were real, and the love was real, and the season mattered. But a person who leaves during your becoming was never going to be able to handle who you were becoming. I often let a relationship end during your lowest season precisely because I knew it could not survive your highest one. My child, what felt like abandonment was frequently protection, the quiet removal of someone who would have resented the very growth I was about to bring you into. You do not have to hate anyone to understand that their timing simply did not match your calling. You can release them with grace, wish them well, and still refuse to shrink yourself back down to a size that would make them comfortable. Beloved, the ones who could not stay for your winter were never going to be the ones standing beside you in your spring. And notice what you did even after they wounded you. You stayed soft. Anyone can grow cold after being hurt. Very few can stay tender, and you did. That is not naivety, my beloved. That is one of the rarest strengths there is. The strength of a heart that refused to let pain turn it into something it did not want to become. And let me free you from the way you have been taught to wait, my child, because it has quietly cost you years. You were told to wait until you had more. Wait until you were fully healed. Wait until the timing was perfect. Wait until someone finally gave you permission. So you waited, sometimes for years, for a green light that was never going to come. But at some point, waiting stops being wisdom and starts being fear, wearing a very convincing disguise. My beloved, you do not need anyone's approval to become who I made you to be. You do not need a flawless record of healing before you are allowed to try again, to love again, to build again. My child, you are allowed to begin exactly where you are, still imperfect, still healing, still learning, and still completely worthy of a good life. Waiting for perfect conditions is very often just another way of staying safe inside a small life. And I did not break the curse over your family so that you could live small. I broke it so that you could finally live free. And do not measure your freedom against anyone else's, my child. because comparison will rob you of the very progress you have made. It is easy to look at another person's life and assume they never struggled the way you did, especially in a world that only shows you the polished surface and never the years of private battle underneath it. Someone celebrating today may have wept through a decade you never saw. Comparing your unfinished chapter to someone else's edited highlights will almost always leave you feeling behind, even when you are not. Your timeline is allowed to look different from everyone else's, my beloved. You were handed a heavier starting weight than most, and you are still moving forward under it. And that counts for far more than an easy race run by someone who never carried what you carried. The only measure that matters is whether you are gently, honestly closer to freedom than you were a year ago, 5 years ago, than you were on the worst night you almost did not survive. And you are. So stop looking sideways at others and start looking back at how far I have already carried you. From where you started, my child, the distance you have already traveled is nothing short of a miracle, and you have carried more than the leaving. You have been the strong one, have you not? The one others lean on, the one who shows up with solutions, the one who holds everyone together during the crisis, while quietly falling apart in private where no one can see. That role became almost an identity, but it has also been so lonely because it meant you rarely let anyone show up for you in return. Hear me, my child. There is nothing wrong with being capable, but you are also allowed to need things. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to say, I do not have the capacity for this right now, without it making you selfish or unreliable. Strength that never rests eventually becomes depletion, and depletion helps no one, least of all you. Part of breaking the old pattern is learning that your worth was never measured by how much you could carry for everyone else. Hear me on this, my beloved, because it is one of the deepest lies woven into your bloodline. Somewhere in your family, being useful became the only acceptable way to be loved. So the people before you earned their place by what they could provide, and never once let themselves simply be cared for. And you inherited that, did you not? You became the dependable one, the fixer, the one who never let anyone see the cracks, because deep down you feared that if you ever stopped being useful, the love would stop too. But that fear is not the truth. My child, my love for you was never a payment for your performance. I did not love you because you held everyone together. I loved you before you ever carried a single thing, and I will love you just as much on the day you finally lay the weight down. Rest is not the abandonment of your calling. Rest is part of it. Even I rested on the seventh day, not because I was weak, but because rest is holy, and a soul that never rests is a soul the enemy can slowly wear down. So put it down for a while, my beloved. The world will not fall apart if you breathe. I am holding far more of it than you have ever realized. Type, I am allowed to rest now. Now let me show you what your courage is truly building, because it reaches far beyond you. You are not only healing for yourself, my beloved. Somewhere down the line, whether it is your own children, a niece or nephew, a younger sibling, or a friend quietly watching you from a distance, someone is learning from the way you are choosing to live. They may never say it out loud, but they are absorbing it. They will not have to fight as hard for their peace, because you fought for yours first. They will not have to unlearn as much fear because you already unlearned so much of it. You are building a map for people who have not been born yet. Picture it for a moment, my child. Picture a child in your family, years from now, who will grow up in a home with less fear in the air than the one you grew up in, and who will never know that the peace they take for granted was purchased by your sleepless nights. My child, picture them able to trust love more easily, able to rest without guilt, able to feel safe in ways you had to fight for, and never once realizing that a whole war was waged on their behalf before they arrived, by someone they may never even meet. That is what you are doing in these unglamorous, exhausting days. You think you are just trying to survive, but you are laying a foundation that unborn generations will stand on. My beloved, the hardest generation in a family is almost always the one that breaks the cycle, because they get none of the ease and all of the excavation. But they are also the most honored in heaven, because they paid a price that blesses people they will never see. You are that generation, my beloved. You are the bridge between everything your family was and everything it is now free to become. And if today has been hard, my child, I do not want you to read that as a sign you have lost your progress. Hard is not the same as failing. Healing was never a straight line, not for anyone I have ever walked with. It moves forward, and then it circles back, and it stumbles, and then it moves forward again, and none of the circling back erases the ground you have gained. My child, you are allowed to have difficult days without the meaning you have gone backward. You are allowed to rest without guilt, to ask for help without shame, to grieve the familiar things you are outgrowing even as you walk away from them, because leaving what once felt like home can feel like loss, even when it is also freedom. And both of those can be true at the same time. So do not judge the whole journey by a heavy night. A heavy night is not the end of the story, my beloved. It is just one page, and I am still writing the ones that come after it, and I promise you they are better than the ones behind you. For it is written, instead of your shame there shall be a double portion, and instead of dishonor they shall rejoice in their lot. Isaiah 61:7. The shame that was handed to you is being traded for a double portion that will fall on the ones who come after you. That is my economy, my beloved. I do not simply remove the curse and leave your family at zero. I take the very area of your deepest inherited pain, and I turn it into the place of your descendants' greatest blessing. Where there was scarcity, I will pour out provision. Where there was silence, I will raise up a family that finally knows how to speak love out loud. Where there was fear, I will establish a peace so deep that your grandchildren will not even know it was ever missing. Beloved, the enemy meant the wound to define your bloodline forever. Instead, I am going to make the healed place the strongest place. The way a bone that has been broken and set often grows back stronger than it was before. Your family's story will not merely recover from what it suffered, my beloved. It will be marked by a strength and a freedom that could only have come through everything you walked to break it. And you get to decide the direction now, for it is written, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua 24:15. Nobody handed you that script, my child. You are writing it yourself, one honest choice at a time. Type, I am the one who changed the line. Let me speak to the forgiveness this will require of you, my beloved, because you cannot fully break the chain while you are still holding it in anger. Forgiving the ones who wounded you, and the ones who wounded them before you, does not mean pretending it did not hurt. It does not mean you have to let anyone back into your life, or even speak to them again. Forgiveness is not about excusing what happened, my child. It is about releasing yourself from having to carry the weight of it for the rest of your life. As long as you hold the offense, you are still connected to the very pain you are trying to break free from, still letting the past reach forward and touch your present. When you forgive, you are not saying it was acceptable. You are saying, I will not carry this into the future I am building, my child. And some of the people you most need to forgive were themselves prisoners of the same cycle, wounding you out of their own unhealed wounds. That does not erase what they did, but it can loosen its grip on your heart. Let me carry the account, my child. I am a far better judge than your bitterness could ever be, and I will settle every wrong with a fairness you can trust, so that you do not have to spend your one life holding a weight I already offered to take. There is a soul near you right now, still chained to an offense they cannot put down, still bleeding from a wound their whole family passed around. Sow a seed in their name, my beloved, and let it be an intercession that says, the God who set me free is reaching for them too. Visit the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on screen. Let your open hand agree with the freedom I want to release over another bloodline tonight. I see the name that just rose in your heart, and I see the seed you sow for them. Because you did not skip this message, my beloved, because you stayed through the naming of the pain you inherited, and the courage it took to break it. What was sealed for this hour has been opened for you. Before you seal this, let me honor what it truly cost you, my beloved, because no one ever has. You were handed a childhood as a battlefield when you should have been handed it as a foundation. You grew up absorbing attention you did not create, being blamed for pain that started long before you, and loving people who did not know how to love you back because no one had ever shown them how, and you did not let it make you into them. My beloved, that is the miracle. You had every reason to become hard, to grow bitter, to hand the same wound to the next person the way it was handed to you. Instead, you stopped the whole thing with your own 2 hands and your own broken heart, in the dark with no one watching and no one clapping. Every silent tear you cried, every night you chose to keep going, every time you decided that the pain would not win, I saw all of it, and none of it was wasted. You are not the damage that was done to you, my child. You are the one who ended it. And in heaven, there is a special honor reserved for the ones who suffered the most and still refuse to pass the suffering on. Think of everything you had to learn with no one to teach you, my child, because it is its own kind of testimony. You had to learn how to comfort yourself, because comfort was not always offered to you. You had to learn how to trust your own judgment, because it was not always trusted for you. You had to learn how to celebrate your own quiet victories, because there was not always someone there to celebrate them with you. You had to teach yourself that calm was not boredom, that a gentle love was not a weaker love, that peace was not something suspicious waiting to be taken away. No one handed you any of it. You built it from nothing. In the dark, through trial and error and prayer and sheer refusal to give up. That is not a small thing, my beloved. That is a resilience that cannot be taught in any classroom, that can only be forged by living it. And the very fact that you had to build yourself with your own hands is exactly what makes you strong enough to become the foundation everyone after you will get to build upon. So place your hand over your heart and declare this with me out loud as the one who finally ended what no one before you could end. My child, the pain ends with me. I am the first in my bloodline to heal instead of hide. The curse that traveled down my family stops in my hands, because Christ already broke it. I break my agreement with the fear, the lack, and the silence I inherited. I am a new creation, and nothing that came before me gets to write what comes after me. Beloved, I choose life, and my house will walk in the blessing I fought for in the dark. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let those words settle all the way down, my child. And if this word has reached the exact weight you have carried your whole life, sow one final seed in the name of the person who is on your heart right now, the one whose bloodline you know this message was truly meant for. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen. Let it be your open hand agreeing with the new line of blessing I am beginning through you, and stay close to this voice. My beloved, follow and subscribe and walk this out, because what I am about to do in your family, no one saw coming, and you were the door I came through to do it. You are not behind, my child. You are not too late. You are not broken beyond repair. The enemy tried to convince you that starting so far behind everyone else meant you would never catch up, that the head start others were given put a finish line forever out of your reach. But you were never running their race, my beloved. You were running a different one entirely. A race no one in your family had ever finished, on a track no one had ever cleared, and you are not behind in that race. You are the only one who has ever run it this far. So do not compare your progress to people who inherited peace, when you had to build yours from rubble. What you have done from where you started is worth more in my eyes than an easy victory handed to someone who never had to fight for it. You did not fall behind, my child. You were carving a road, and carving a road always takes longer than walking one that is already paved. But the road you are carving is the one your whole family will travel on now. You are simply in the middle of becoming someone your younger self would be proud of, and someone your descendants will one day thank me for. For it is written, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore choose life, that you and your offspring may live. Deuteronomy 30:19. You chose life, my beloved, in a family that had only ever known the other thing. No one in your bloodline had ever dared to do what you did. No one had the strength, or the safety, or the support to stop the pain and feel it, and let it heal instead of passing it on. For generations it simply continued, because that is what everyone believed it had to do. And then you came, and quietly, without permission, and without a map, you did the thing no one before you dared to attempt. You broke it. History has hinges, my child. Moments where the whole direction of a family, a line, a future turns on a single decision made by a single person in a single ordinary-looking night. Tonight was one of those hinges, and you were the one standing at it. And tonight, quietly, without an audience and without applause, you changed history. Type, I changed history today.